Welcome back to Trekyards, everybody. I am Captain Foley, and I am joined today by the finest first officer in the fleet. Wait a minute, Samuel, did you add that bit to the script, or did I write that in initially?
You actually wrote it, Stuart. Hi everyone, I'm Commander Cockings. So great to see you all again.
And today we have a very special treat for you all. We have one of the talented designers behind the latest Star Trek film, Star Trek Beyond. Please welcome Mr. Sean Hargreaves to the show, everyone. Welcome, Sean.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Doing pretty well. So welcome, Sean. And today we'll talk about your design concept and concept sketches they did for the Enterprise A that we see at the very end of the film.
Yes, we definitely have some questions about your Enterprise vision, and if you are able, even the finished CGI version that appears at the end of the film, which is a little bit different from your concept art, but we'll get into that.
And because each is so unique, we're going to be covering just your concept, just your vision, and then we'll do a full episode on the other ship when the Blu-ray comes out. So let's talk about this, the last one later, though. So first of all, remind us how you became, how you started working on Beyond, the brief version, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I was working in commercials, designing, and I wanted to give it a break. And I heard from a friend of mine who knew the production designer on Star Trek that they were looking for some concept guys, and they were looking for a visual effects art director. And so I met with them and got the job.
So did you know that you would be designing the new Enterprise right away, like right out of the gate, or was this kind of sprung on you down the road after you've kind of been working for a while?
No, it was basically, it was down probably about a few weeks, maybe a month in, that they'd mentioned that, oh, there's the new Enterprise that needs to be designed. And so, yeah, of course that got my attention. And at the time we didn't know how much we were going to see of it. So, but regardless, it still had to be designed. So, yeah, I immediately said, I want to do it.
Well, that brings in straight away, how long have you been a Trek fan, and were you actually nervous about designing the next big screen Enterprise? I mean, of course, the Franklin, but this is the 1701 after all.
Yeah, I'm a Trek fan. Like I've said in the past, I'm rather Trekky, but I'm definitely a Trek fan. I had, my share of Trek stuff when I was younger, and obviously I was very aware of the Enterprise and the importance of it. And as soon as I accepted to redesign it or modify it, then I had the huge weight on my shoulders of the Trek world, and you had to go all in, and it was a great honor to do it. Was it?
If you're honest, think of it as scales. Is it more exciting or more nerve-wracking, do you think, when you're doing it?
It comes in waves. The nerve-wracking will begin when you hit a spot, and then you'll get past that hard part, and it gets exciting. Then something else will come up, and you'll be like, "Oh, I'm nervous again." So it kind of comes up and down, varies.
So, what kind of brief or notes did you get on this new version? It appears so briefly at the end of the movie, and as you just said, you weren't sure how much it was going to be represented in the film. So, and it is a fantastic shot at the end, I gotta say, it's beautiful. But she is, she's going to be the Enterprise moving forward. So I must assume that you had some kind of brief on what she was supposed to be like.
Well, when they told me about it, they didn't know how much it was going to be in the film. They didn't know exactly where it was going to be, and then it went away. It wasn't going to be in the film at all. And then it came back. So, I had to really get on it and get something done quick and show them, say, look, if you have it, if you bring it back, this is what it could look like. And the main brief was that it just needs to be more robust than the previous one, especially in the neck and the pylons that go into the engines. Just because of the script and how it was taken down. And that was the main thing that Justin was very adamant about.
Well, given the amount of, I'm not going to say interference, but discussion and redesigning that the original Ryan Church had through J.J. Abrams and the production team, were you surprised then that you didn't get? I mean, that's not a lot of notes considering what they asked you to do. Were you surprised you didn't get as much direction?
Well, by the time I started on it, I'd already done the Franklin, and I'd already done the Yorktown, and I think in a way it was trial by fire, and they trusted my ability at that point to be given, just to be trusted with the design. And yeah, I wasn't obviously present at the Ryan Church films. I mean, the first two JJ films, but I know that there was a lot of involvement with the higher ups on that. I didn't have that. I don't know if I was being protected by Justin or my designer boss, but I didn't have that kind of interference, if you will.
Although I have interest, I want to swing back to the actual design process. How long did it take, do you think, to actually flesh out the design?
I drew it in 5 minutes. And those sketches I showed you, the red line sketches, and I did it because I had it in my head. The way I used to design is I used to sketch and sketch and sketch. It would take days and days and days. But now I sketch in my head. And by the time I sit down to actually sketch physically on paper, it's already designed. So saying 5 minutes is like, oh, wow. But really, it's been designed in my head. And I'm just transferring it to a visual so I can present it to someone else, because I can't present my head to someone else. So and like I've shown on my Facebook page, the design process was basically a series of overall shapes. And once I got those shapes down in my head, it was basically organizing them into the ship. So dealing with the neck and the pylon relationship and certain other relationships of form. And once I got that language down, which is always important in design, it was pretty straightforward.
Now, you said you've had it kind of designed in your head prior. Was this since 2009 when you first saw the JJPrise? Did you kind of have a redesigned vision back then?
No. The main thing I think that I gave to this Enterprise was just organizing some of the stuff. And when I saw the JJ Enterprise, I was very disturbed by the engines. The rest of the stuff on the JJ Enterprise, I thought it was a fine ship. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I just didn't feel like it had any guts to it. There was no real serious design lines to it, and it was just a nice, sleek ship. And I wanted to just kind of reorganize some of that stuff and give some of my own signature in it.
So I know that speaking with us earlier, you had mentioned that you wanted to bring the Enterprise from the Kelvin universe more in line with the classic 1960s Constitution class. What were some of your favorite things about the original TOS Enterprise that you wanted to include in your 2016 version?
Well, I just want to say, the Kelvin and the Prime universe, I didn't think about that when I designed the ship. I just wanted to design what I liked in the Enterprise. And whether it was like the TOS or whether it was something from the Kelvin universe, doesn't really matter to me. Just as long as it looked correct and it had the Star Trek feel, and it didn't screw up any other stuff, with regards to details and timelines and things like this. And I knew that if I went back to the Jeffrey design, which I've always loved, and just start with that and then modify that, bring it into the present day, that we would have something. So it wasn't literally looking at it and copying it and slightly modifying it. It was starting with that and then bringing it into the present day, which is what I planned on doing. What I liked about the original Enterprise was that I liked obviously the spinning nacelles, Buzzards as they call them, and I liked certain things like the edge of the saucer. I loved that angle. I loved I loved a lot of stuff that I had to kind of change, like the shuttle bay and the engineering area had to change. The neck was a nice shape. It was weird that I always felt, even as a kid, the neck, though, always seemed upside down. It was thinner at the bottom, narrower at the bottom, and thicker at the top. Nowadays, you would flip that and you would make it thicker at the bottom and narrower at the top. It seemed a bit top-heavy to me, like it was going to snap. But anyway... that's just picky stuff. But so I mean, there wasn't anything crazy about the Jeffrey stuff that I had to have. It was just some things that were nice about it,
So there are some pretty drastic, sweeping lines of your new Enterprise, which we can see in the artwork. What exactly were you going for in terms of stylistic elements? What did you want people to think when they first saw the design?
Whenever I design a vehicle, I always design, and this is from my car design, because I used to be a car designer. I always design from profile, so side view, and when I studied the side view of the JJ Enterprise, and I studied the side view of the TOS Jeffries Enterprise. I just looked at the things that I liked and that worked. But really, my brief was to make this evolutionary and not revolutionary. I wasn't supposed to do anything crazy here, but I did actually push it a little further than they requested. One of the things I wanted to do was have a relationship between the neck and the pylons. And herein lies the problem, where some people have had problems with it, some people have loved it. It's the pylons. It's that sweep from the tail edge of the pylons down to the shuttle bay, which I love because it relates to the neck, and it's just a completely different statement than we've seen before. I always felt, even if in the Jeffries ship, that those pylons were too thin. They just looked like they're going to snap, and I just wanted to do something, to make a statement there, and I related the neck shape profile and the pylon shape profile, and that's how I got that pylon shape. It's that triangle, and let's see what else. But that was the main. I think that was the main statement, above and beyond cleaning up the engines, which they were just too much to me.
So I love that you mentioned that, because I had not considered you're taking the shapes to add visual continuity between the neck and the pylons. That's a great idea. Yeah. That's subconscious stuff I just hadn't thought of. It's lovely.
Well, you guys have to understand also, and the fans have to understand that also out there. When the director says to you, I want the neck and I want the pylons thicker, it sounds horrific, because then you've got this huge fat neck and a huge fat pylons. It's this big, it just doesn't work. It's too heavy, because you've got a nice body, you got these nice
Curves.
Well, you've got a nice engineering section. You've got the nice engines. Those are mass, right? And you've got the saucer, which is mass. And they got the three things that are joining it, which are the two pylons and the neck. You thicken those up, they're competing with the mass. So how do you do it and balance it out without it being overpowering the beautiful masses that you have, right? Yeah. So that's what I did. I worked in profile, and I thickened it up lengthwise as opposed to laterally on the pylons. And so I thickened the base up and kept the top part narrower or thinner. And visually, it makes it look like it's the heavier and a tougher and a more robust ship. Now, can the swarm ships still go through it? I'm sure they can. Yeah. But from a fantasy standpoint, it just looks tougher, you know?
I think just that sums up why you were hired, because that's a lot of thought in just the right way. That's impressive. For a non-design student, you know.
Yeah, it has to be thought through. I mean, you can't just slap shapes together, you know. You have to start with a basic design, and, you know, a lot of designers depend on detail to make it look good, but it's detailing basically a pig. Oh, so you got to start with the hardest thing about a designer is you got to start with the basic design. Get that design down, and then anything that you add to that is icing on the cake, as we say. You know, it's sugar on the cookie. But don't depend on the sugar to make it good, because then you'll just get sick, you know? So that's the whole process.
I love that description.
It's kind of ideal. Now, that literally is what I was going to say. As a designer and as someone who knows the Trek world and how restrictive and yet freeing it can be, do you actually feel, you know, how is it to actually take a shape that you really can't change at its core? Is that very restrictive, or are you enjoying the challenge, the artistic side of making these changes and yet still keeping what is expected? Is that good or bad for you as a designer?
Well, the thing is for this, I don't want to change it to where it's not recognizable, because I like the ship. And so, you know, it wasn't hard to not change it, but it was hard to change it to the point where it had some kind of a statement from, you know, for lack of a better word, for Sean Hargreaves. What Sean Hargreaves is going to give to this design. You know, because if I don't give it a design, then I'm not worthy of being hired, you know. I've got to give it something. So, because there's nothing worse than the designer showing a director and they go, okay, what did you do? Why are you here? You know, so it's like, it's that fine line of not doing too much and not doing too little.
So one big thing you took out of your design was the neck torpedo launcher. This was first seen in the motion picture and kept as part of the 2009 reboot. You took this out of your concept. First of all, why the stylistic change, and where are the primary photon torpedo launchers now?
Well, I I liked it when I saw it when I was young, on the motion picture. But then, as a designer, I just felt it looked like a big neck pimple. So I just removed it, and I just decided to put. Of course, you don't see it here, but I just decided verbally, because we didn't actually see anything happening beyond with regards to torpedoes or photons or anything like that. I said just put it underneath the saucer. I love stuff firing underneath the saucer, because when they fire, you see the reflection of the beams underneath the saucer shell, and it looks awesome. And just firing out from the neck, there's no interaction with the body, and it's just like, okay, here's some stuff being thrown out. But you move things closer to the body, you get that cool look, Especially like when you see, if you guys have seen the remastered TOS episodes. I mean, how awesome are those with the wider matte paintings and the remodeled beautiful ship, right? But they did that. They basically, because in the original series effects, they didn't have the reflection of the photons being fired out onto the bottom of the ship, but they did on this because it was all CG, so they could do that, and it made a huge difference, really dramatic, and I loved that. And so that was my whole thought process once I saw that. I was like, you know what, forget the neck stuff, put everything underneath and we'll work it out later how big it is and where it comes out, Yeah,
that was a great tie into TOS, because there is no real photon torpedo launchers on the original Connie. They kind of come out from underneath the saucer somewhere. Same with the phasers. So it's a nice callback to that, yeah.
Yes, it's refitting into a TOS style. And so we've discussed this on Skype separately, as you and me, and there are lots of little lights on the bottom of the sensor dome. Do you think the front two are where the torpedoes are, or is it very much just like TOS? They just sort of come out of roughly that area, and there's just no hatches because it's all maybe opens for fire, or I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, one of the things I liked about the Next Generation is they had that rim that went around the dome, and it could fire from different angles. The problem with the TOS is that it seems to only fire forward, if I recall. Yeah. So I'm thinking that at least it should fire forward, reverse, and left and right. And but I always loved the one on the Next Generation where it was any angle.
Phaser strips, yeah.
Of course, you don't want to fire back 45 because then you shoot off your own pylons. But you want to be careful of that angle. But that was my thought around that you can go almost every angle with those.
So they are all weapon emplacements at the bottom then.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've got the continuing phaseable turrets at the top, very motion picture and JJ, and then at the bottom you've got TOS style. That's fun. 2 different arcs.
Yeah.
Do you know if there are aft weapons? Did you think to put those on, maybe hidden little lights, any torpedoes, or is that again wasn't mentioned, so wasn't added?
It wasn't mentioned, but if I was attacking it today, it would probably be somewhere underneath the impulse engines on the neck.
For both torpedoes and phasers, or?
Good question. You can. I'll let you design that one, Samuel.
Okay. And there's a CG render now of it firing. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah. No, honestly, when you design these kind of things, there's so much stuff to do on a film that really gets to a point where, tell me what you want to design, I'll design it. If you don't want it in the film, I'm not going to design it. I'm not even going to think about it. And it'll be worked out. It'll be worked out later. Because honestly, especially with this ship, there wasn't time to work out certain things. I mean, the image, and I talked to Samuel about this, the image that was on that I posted, of my design, all those renderings, there's parts that, I'm like, I just needed a few more days. I would have worked that part out. Look, the back end where like I said to Samuel, the back end where the shuttle bay is, that wasn't worked out. And does it look like an egg? Of course it looks like an egg, because I didn't have time to get the fairing around the rim of the doors and work the mechanics of how the doors open, because those doors are really, really complicated for the ship, because it's not just a sphere like it is in the TOS or the motion picture, and it's a complicated compressed oval actually. So it needed to be worked out, but they were like, we need the model now. So after fiddling with the main bits and all this other stuff and the fairings and the engines, the tail end, the shuttle bay, wasn't important at this point.
And one nice thing about this version is that this is the concept. The final movie version is slightly different. So hopefully we can work together a little bit to maybe flesh out a few little details about this version, get on 3D model we've done, and then we can see it and really represent what you'd pictured. So that's gonna be a lot of fun, I think, in the editing process.
Now, I know you already mentioned that you wanted to make the Buzzards closer to the original series because that's one of your favorite things about the original ship. But please talk to us about that in more detail.
Yeah.
And what is the light rim around the Buzzard? Is that always on, or does it rotate with the Buzzards or anything?
Yeah.
Oh, the light rim's always on. It was just something I added. I thought it looked.
It's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
You've got these 3 light areas which are in the front dish of the engineering, and you've got the Buzzards, and honestly, I don't know what's going on inside there. It's an interpretation of what Jeffries did. And look at I've looked quite a bit on the revised, the remodeled or preserved Smithsonian Enterprise, and they did an amazing job of those lights. But again, I think it's still different than what they had on the show. They didn't spin the lights and turn them on and off. They're basically static lights with something spinning in front of them, which is basically the JJ version. The JJ and the cells had that same thing with. They have these blades spinning in front of them. I think we talked about them before. They're very, very complicated. They're counter-rotating, and they have lights behind them blinking on and off. So it's something that it's like technology that you don't even understand, but you accept it as something advanced. And I love that. I'm not a believer that you have to know everything about why and which. Just it looks advanced, I know Samuel's like, why and how? What are the screws that they used to put in the nacelle rims? And
that's what Trekyards is for. That's what we do.
I'm just like, it looks believable. It looks good. Because a lot of times when you try to discern something, you ruin it. You try and make it to what you think it is, and it's not what it is, and ends up not looking right. So I think that's what they did. I don't think they ruined it in the. I'm actually glad they brought it back in the JJ Enterprise, but it was a variation of it. It wasn't the same thing, but it certainly gives an interest to the ship. It's not dead anymore like it was in the previous versions. And
you're in a unique position. You were. The JJ universe, the Kelvin timeline, is still TOS, so you don't need to look at the TNG or anything after, and it's now 3 iterations into this new JJPrise style, which is different. So you're already so far into your own universe that you don't need to pull because it is its own thing.
No, and I pulled, I think, from the right areas, and which were basically JJ's stuff, TMP and TOS. So I skipped the other stuff, and so there we have it.
But Sean, I've got to ask. So obviously we have the spinning, like the TOS. You've brought that back. But come on, what is that light ring? I mean, I'm not going to ask what is in the Buzzards, but what do you think the light ring is? I want to hear something. Yeah, what does it do functionally? I want to hear something.
I think there should be a secondary thing. You have your impulse engines, right? And then you have. It's kind of like you're touching the accelerator, and then suddenly you've got it all the way to the floor. We're suddenly at warp. There's no in between. So why not have a light ring that just kind of starts up, that lights up and starts off, and then we fire up the warp engines? Why does it have to be just one or the other? So that's my excuse for that. But the truth is that it just looks cool.
I got a better one. Let's call it a mood ring. And it reflects the mood of the crew on board at the time. So when they run into an alien ship, well, depending on the color, you'll know whether the crew's angry, relaxed.
I like that.
There you go. It's a mood ring, guys. The nacelle mood ring.
No, it's red all the time. Uh-oh, Kirk's upset.
Exactly.
Or it's green. He's met an Orion.
The light ring was something I put on the Franklin first, and then I was going through materials and I thought, well, let's see what that ring looks like in metal. So I made it more of a metal ring, and on the illustration you'll see that it's metal. The leading edge just behind the dome of the nacelle on the Franklin is metal. That used to be a light ring. And then I thought, well, it's a bit too advanced as a light ring for the Franklin, so I'll put it on the Enterprise. So that's kind of how it started. But again, I don't really know what it does, but you guys are really amazing with that. So, Samuel, it's on your shoulders.
Okay, and I'll make sure Stuart's there chatting away as well, because he's TOS.
That is this week's Trekyards done and dusted. Next week, we've got another great part.
Yes, the continuation next week. Tune in.
So 7 days and just click on that link. So we'll see you then.
See you then, guys.